Okay, on to our third panel member. Our third panel member is David Tillier, the property investor. Now, David founded and managed and is the managing director of EPS, also known as Easy Property Solutions. EPS was set up in 2011 to work with a number of key JV partners and investors. EPS now sources hundreds of properties throughout the UK for its growing number of investors. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David Tillier.
Thank you. We have just a few short moments with each other because I've been told there's a tube strike tonight, so we're going to have to get off pretty sharpish after this. But I'd like to just go through a few areas as an investor that I can share with you at the moment, and they're really they are the 6 steps to becoming a master investor. And I think, if you can master these over a period of time, you're well on your way to actually becoming an investor, whether that be in London or throughout the UK. I actually invest in property all over the UK, and I've got properties in my portfolio, not just in London, but throughout the UK as well. So, who here then wants to know how to become a master investor? Yeah? I'm sure you all do, right? That's why you're here. Okay. The first thing you need to know to become a master investor is you need to really acquire the knowledge. Knowledge is key. Knowledge is the key that opens the door to your property future. Okay? You need to build that knowledge on an ongoing basis. The more knowledge you can gain, whether that be through trainings or networking or books, or even coming to great events like this, you can meet someone that could obviously help you to move forward. Okay? The second thing is that you need to really identify a gold mine area. And what I mean by a gold mine area is, I call it a golden triangle. Now that golden triangle becomes an area which you turn into eventually something that you love. It's an area that you eventually will generate an income that you can possibly give up your day job with. I mean, if you're investors that you're looking to invest in property to generate an income, maybe that's what you're looking to do. But before you can actually do that, when you've identified an area, you need to obviously make sure you find a source of properties, a constant source of properties. Say, for example, if it was North West London, work with an agent, work with sourcing agents as well. Now, there are basically 6 steps to actually working with agents that I really have come down to over all the years I've been investing in property. The first one is you need to know what the historical prices are within that area. When you're investing in an area, it's vitally important that you know the prices, what the properties have sold for. Have they gone down? Have they gone up? Are they just plateauing at the moment? So you need to track back, I would say, between 3 and 4 years and have a look what the properties have been doing in the area. Okay? Look at current property sales as well, and ask sourcing agents or agents, the estate agents that you might be working with, what are the current prices in that area for properties, based on the type of property you want to invest in. That could be, I don't know, a flat or apartments, as they call them, or even what I like to invest in, which is a freehold property. You'll also really look to find if the market is quite buoyant for rent, because obviously there's no use in buying a property as an investor if you're not going to be able to generate a rent from it, right? You need one with the other. So I would say it's vitally important to actually find out what the rental yields are like within that area and what sort of demand there is within that area as well. Now, you can do this very easily. You can test the market, and I test every market I go into by just putting a test advert out. You can put it on places like spareroom.com or Gumtree. Just put out an advert just to see what sort of response you're going to get. And if you're going to get a good response, you know then there's a market there for it. Okay. And also test the area as well. Speak to the local authorities, because the local authorities, like the local town planning, they will know exactly what's going to be happening in that area in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And in this particular area that I told you about earlier, my golden triangle, I won't tell you where it is, I sure will go rushing there. I know in the next 12 months there's going to be one of those new, you know, those out-of-store Tesco's, those really big Tesco's that they have, with 30 checkouts. They're going to be building one of them there. So that's going to be generating a lot of jobs in that area. And also, I know that within that area as well, what's going to be happening in the next 24 months. Because I speak to the local town planners, go down to the local council, and all this information is available, but sometimes people don't think about going and checking all that out. But you need to make sure that the demand's going to be there. You don't want to be buying a dead duck. Because sometimes if you see a property you want to invest in an area and it's really cheap, there could be a reason why it's still there and it's still on the market, right? Okay. So have a good look around. Another good source as well you might want to try and have a look at is HomeTrack, hometrack.co.uk. So write that down. Now, if you're sourcing properties for investment, there are really 5 areas which you can maximise your time on. Because if you've got a day job at the moment, you're really, really busy, and you're a part-time investor, you want to be able to put this into the form of a system so you can maximise on getting a good return. Now, one of the things when you're building relationships with agents or sourcing agents is to make contact with them. Not just once. Don't just go into an estate agent and give them your card and say, hi, my name is David, I want to invest in this area. Because they won't think of you next week when they've got a really good deal. You've got to keep on their case all the time. So just, you know, diarise it, put it out in the diary just to give them a call in a couple of weeks' time. Say, hi Ben, it's David, how are you? Just want to know if you've got any properties available. You know, and just keep on their case all the time. And the same with sourcing agents as well, because they will become your best friends. They will bring the deals to you. If you can set up a system and a mechanism like that, where deals are constantly flowing through to you, you don't have to do all the hard work. Because a lot of the hard work, believe you me, is going out there finding the properties, finding the really good deals. So let other people do the hard work. Another thing you need to do with these type of people is keep them abreast of the deal. If they do give you a lead, just keep in contact with them. So yeah, you spoke with a vendor, you're arranging to go and see the property, but just keep them up to date with what's going on. Okay? A lot of these people do actually work on commission, like estate agents will, or a lot of sourcing agents will work on commission. So they want to be paid promptly. So make sure you always pay their fees as well. It's vitally important. Okay. Now the third thing I want to give you is about how to find money. Now a lot of you, obviously, if you find a great deal, a great opportunity, and you do not have the funds literally to fund the property, you need to actually find the funds. Now there's a number of ways in which you can do that, and I'm going to share a couple of with you tonight. So who here is interested in raising funds? Yeah? I'm sure we all are. Speak with Lena. No, Lena, seriously, I work with Lena quite a lot, and she is a good mortgage advisor, and I put a lot of people through to her because at the end of the day, if you need to raise funds for a property, even if you have a decision in principle, you've got to make sure that all this is all set up and ready to go. Now, there are some other ways you can actually fund properties, and you know, that's the old-fashioned way, by getting a mortgage, putting a deposit down. But the other ways are to find an investor, like a business angel, for example. And there are many networking groups or places you can go to actually work with these type of people. But one thing I would say to you, if you haven't already, but in time in future, put together a property CV, okay? A property CV. Now, all the people that I coach and mentor, I always tell them to put together a property CV. Now, you've probably already got your own property, so there might have been a mechanism or process that you went through to buy that. Or if you're buying properties at the moment, I have bought several. If you put together a property CV, it's a bit like when you go for a job, right? So you'd have what you're currently doing, what you can offer the company, some of your education, things like that. When you go to an investor, they want to see, what have you done before? How safe is my money going to be with you? It's not just the case that this is the deal and I can give you 14% of return on investment, not in London, but you can give them a good return if they also can have the security in you. So you've got something to show them, okay? So that's one area, as I say, with investors. You can go to business events. You can also go to, and don't all rush out at the same time, as you might see me down there, the local flying club. go to areas where you're going to find wealthy people. Marinas, say local flying club, or you can go to places like these charity balls as well. A lot of investors are actually obtained in these sort of places where you find a lot of rich, wealthy people. And these are people that sometimes they're looking for an investment to get a better return on their money. And if you can give them a better return on what they get at the moment, then I'm sure they'll happily speak to you. So that's just a couple of ideas of how to raise capital. You can actually raise capital in other ways, but if you wanted to go through those, I can obviously talk to you about them a little bit later, because tonight I've only got a certain amount of time. Now, you've found your property, you've raised your finance, so how do you now implement these strategies? Now, there's many different strategies, and I'm sure some of you are more seasoned than others, and you know about things like rent-to-rent, delay completion, and lease options, all these weird and wonderful things that are now coming over here in the UK that we didn't have when I started in property many, many years ago. It was done the old-fashioned way. Get a mortgage, put your deposit down, and as a buy-to-let mortgage, that's it. Now it's a lot more creative. And you can get very creative with implementing these strategies. But whenever you sit down, and this is something you might want to write down, whenever you sit down with a vendor, you need to create a win-win with them. Yeah? I've seen a lot of people actually go into a negotiation with a vendor and they've got one thing in mind. I want to buy your property. I want to buy it cheap. Yes, you do want a good deal, but if you don't take their consideration into account, what you're probably going to find, they just close down straight away. And you're never going to get a hope in hell of buying that property. Yeah? You're going to have to probably sometimes pay the odds for it. So learn as many strategies and techniques as you can. That's my advice there. The strength in your combination of your knowledge and the deal can be implemented from the strategies you've learned. So when you're going in to speak with someone, just think about it like, you're a bit like an employee on a building site. If you just got a hammer, you can only bang a nail, right? But if you've got a tool belt of knowledge, you can, any strategy you can actually implement to suit the needs. And sometimes it's a combination of strategies as well. So always be thinking, how can I work with this seller and put a strategy together? Okay. Now, another thing that I would actually say to you, the fifth thing, one of the tips I want to give you is develop and master these skills every day. It's not just a case of actually saying take one strategy and just try to implement it or try it on a particular vendor. Just keep implementing them day after day after day. Yeah? Keep on going. Because the more knowledge you get, the better prepared you are to actually go into any deal. And if you remember, Einstein once said, a mind once stretched to the dimensions can never return to the same shape and size again. So it's about expanding your mind and filling your mind with the different knowledge and strategies. And the sixth thing really is just repeat until bored, or you want to, change the scenery or beach. Yeah? It's a case of constantly finding new opportunities. And if you employ those areas that I've just spoken about, you can become a master investor in a short period of time, and you can buy a property a month. Because my company now is actually doing that. I work with investors. I don't just coach and mentor them. They become my joint venture partners, and I work with them. And part of what I'm offering everyone here tonight is a coaching call with myself. What you need to do is put your details on that form over there, and one of my staff will contact you, and we can obviously have a look at where you are now and where you want to be and see how we can help you get there. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm just going to move this here. We're going to get on to the question and answers which you sent us, which I was expecting a few. You sent in pages and pages and pages. Some of them were completely mental, to be honest. There were some really, really crazy ones. The best one I got was, this personality testing thing at the moment, how much you spend on milk. Somebody actually put, does it matter if I buy semi-skimmed or full fat? I don't think it's that detailed. It might do, it's life expectancy. Okay, so what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to ask the question, then I'm going to let as many members of the panel answer it. Once we get through, like I said, we have got quite a lot of them, we will open it out to any questions which haven't been answered as well. Okay, the first one. I know it's a very sort of odd question, I suppose there isn't a real question answer to this, but is this a good time to buy a property in London?
Answer it.
Okay, from my point of view, yes it is, but depending on really what you want from it. Everybody has different objectives when they invest in property, if it's from an investment point of view, okay? If you're looking for capital growth, yes, London is the #1 place, without a shadow of a doubt. I think it always will be because, nowhere grows as quick as the capital. But if you're looking for return on investment, or maybe a yield, then I can show you opportunities outside London that's going to give you a much better return. So it's 50-50 depending on what your needs are.
From my point of view, and I'm sort of in completely different niche in the market, so there is no right or wrong time. It depends on your circumstances and, as David said, what your plans are now and in the future and what you are expecting to do. Do what is right for you, I say to my clients, and do what is right for your money. And if you follow that strategy, I haven't created it, I borrowed it from another financial advisor from America. But I really believe that we should do what is right for ourselves first, and then what is right for our money. David and I can have conversations who's buying property where and why, and he has his points, I've got my points, and the client has their point. Always like it because we are different and our circumstances are very different.
From my point of view, it's initially, if it's buy to live, it's your own personal circumstances. If it's right for you to buy now because you need somewhere to live. From an investment point of view, it's crystal ball time. And I wish I had that crystal ball. All I can say is London property prices seem to be affected by foreign investment. And it's a question, why are sort of the wealthy people of other countries investing in London? Mainly it's
London is seen as safe haven.
And they know London. They also probably know Liverpool and Manchester from football, but the rest of the country they don't know, so they will invest in London. But the main reason they're investing in London is because the US property market is depressed and has been depressed for a long time. When that picks up, they are going to either move their money to the States, or they're going to start investing new money in the States and not be investing in London. What that will do to the London market, I don't know. It's a risk that you've got to take. It's a gut reaction, and I don't think there's a true answer to it.
Invest outside London.
It comes on to a different topic here. What are the current up-and-coming areas? What's your triangle? No, what are the up-and-coming areas?
Go on, David, tell us.
Yeah. You know what? There are a few little hotspots throughout the UK. Maybe if you're just talking specifically London, again, depending on your sort of budget and things like that, but I think safely anything around sort of zone 3. Yeah, if we look at zones, yeah, it's probably safe to say rather than me picking, I don't know, Hammersmith or Piccadilly, whatever. So I think really around zone 3 outwards. I think it's also more affordable for most people as well. And there are a couple of little hotspots. I mean, I'll give you a little nugget here. King's Cross is a really good area. Again, it's about forward thinking about now what's going on there. As you all probably will know, I mean, Google's going to be moving in shortly. So it is about thinking about things like that. You know, if I can get a good deal, what's going to support that on the other side? But there are many other areas outside London where I now choose to invest my money, and I'm getting a much better return. I'm getting a yield of about 18% net. That's net after all my costs. 18% yield on most of my properties.
Fair play, well done. Any insider info about areas?
We have no idea.
Okay. What types of properties either hold their value best or increase in value, and are there any particular types of properties to avoid?
Well, from mortgage point of view, and that's why you will see lots of fight between us now. From mortgage point of view, any high rise? No. Properties over 5 floors, so flat over 5th floor. If the property has more than 5 floors and you are buying flats there, very difficult to mortgage. Properties over commercial premises, very difficult to mortgage. Short leases, as David said, yes, you can buy a property and get a mortgage with a lease of 80 or even 75 years, but then you come to remortgage and you've got a problem. So those are the main properties I would avoid if you will be mortgaging them.
Any more for anyone? Okay. If you're self-employed, I think it was kind of covered a little bit before actually, but if you are self-employed, are there any additional hurdles or penalties that you need to be aware of?
Well, there are no penalties or hurdles, there are lots of hurdles. No penalties as such, but here is what I'll just give you an example. And that's the problem with the industry. It's fragmented. There are plenty of advisors who provide a client with advice when it comes to money, financial advisors, mortgage advisors, insurance advisors, accountants, tax people, estate planners, and all of them do a good job. It will really help if they communicate with each other. Had an inquiry from a lady who was employed in IT sector. Then she was advised to go contractor. She did it for 8 months, and then she was advised to go limited. And she came to get a mortgage, no chance. We need 2 years accounts. We are looking into it. She has 1 year accounts, and it looks like there is one lender because she was in same industry and with the same employer, and we might be able to place her. But self-employed, 2 to 3 years accounts. It's accounts you need. And if you get dividends, some lenders will take 100% of your dividends, some will take less. So again, rules change and they change all the time. If you had very good year and then your income went down and then you had a good year again, that will be average over 3 years. If you had good year, bad year, and very bad year, you probably wouldn't be able to get more as self-employed, or it will be averaged again and you will be with much less lower figures than I have got clients who say, you ask, how much do you earn? X amount. Well, X amount very quick becomes Y amount because X amount was a turnover as much the amount of money which went through bank account, but what they show for tax purposes is completely different figure. And
which one do you want?
Oh, me, I don't care,
No, the
but
lenders.
banks take, so whatever you submit for tax purpose, that's the figures they work with.
Cool. Is it best to put a bigger deposit on a property if you can afford it, or is it wiser to put a smaller deposit? And what are the pros and cons of both?
Little as possible. You've probably heard the saying, cash is king. It is because, all of my properties I have, they're all mortgaged. I've got none of them paid off at all. I don't know whether you disagree with that, but I'm a great believer of leverage. You've got to leverage your money. And if you can leverage that property as much as you can and get the money out of that to invest in other properties so you can get a return on that second property, it's going to serve you better. Yeah? So as much as you can leverage is going to be to advantage.
That's if you talk about investment property, I think we are a good couple. If it's residential, it's up to you what you do. If it's a residential property, bigger deposit you've got, more choice of lenders you've got, more choice of products you've got, your residential property is not technically an investment, it's liability, because you pay for it. So cheaper your mortgage is, less you pay, more money you've got to invest, save, or do something else. But yes, there is a difference, huge difference in interest rate.
Money is relatively cheap at the moment, so it's probably worth borrowing more. So you've got a funds in reserve just in case you need it to spend on repairs or improvements.
Something when I was doing my 10 minutes, if you are buying a property now, be aware that there are plenty of very cheap deals around. Interest rate, if you ask economists, they will say that it looks like interest rate wouldn't go up, though I will question that because no one knows, to be honest. If we are so clever, then why didn't we predict that interest rate will crash to 0.5%? No one knew about that. But cheap money we've got as mortgages at the moment, it's not down to Bank of England interest rate. It's down to governmental scheme which was available for banks. It was help me, something for lending, funding for lending, and lenders had access to cheap money. That was closed last year, and in January, where there was a deadline, banks took as much as they were able to each, and they still have got those funds available. But they want to interest rate increasing on fixed rates especially. So if you're buying now, just be aware that it wouldn't last, this cheap money wouldn't last forever. At least we won't want.
I've just started a new job. Is there a minimum term that I should be employed before I can apply for a mortgage?
That was so good today. If it's permanent, then there are lenders who will take you there are even lenders who will take you on board if you will be getting into job next month or months after. So probation period, okay, some lenders wouldn't accept it. You probably will have less lenders to choose from. You should be okay.
I'm currently, has everyone answered that? That's all cool. Okay, I'm currently considering buying a buy-to-let. I'm actually employed. So when I get my buy-to-let, should I be self-employed? Should I set up a different company? How would I actually pay the tax on that?
No, you just do it through tax return, self-assessment at the end of the financial year. You do need to have an accountant. I would advise to have an accountant who can help you doing that. You can do it yourselves, but a good accountant will help you a lot and will tell you, do pay tax, please do pay tax, because HMRC, as far as I know, talking to accountants, they are after small landlords who don't pay money on rental incomes they receive.
Where are the best places to find out about the prices of London houses and to backdate that as well?
Zoopla.
Super.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be online, really. There's a wealth of information that's available online, which we all know. We're tech savvy. Just go online and use relative tools like Zoopla, Rightmove,
Contract.
yeah, Amtrak, and also Land Registry as well. Where it
Sorry,
all
what was the
originates
last one?
from.
Land Registry.
Land registry.
Land Registry. Land. Because all of the relevant sites normally extract their information from there, because I think from a legal perspective, you have to register it with them.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
things
what you
with,
guys do.
with the land registry site, that deals with all properties, or I'd say sort of 99.5% of all properties. And they've got the records for that. If, say, the Halifax and Nationwide, who publish statistics monthly, they only deal with properties that go through their books. So it's always better to go to the land registry because you've got the bigger picture. And the sites were well worth for the information that they've got.
Certain sites will also give you certain information, like Land Registry is only going to give you a certain amount of information. But if you go to someone like, if you download, what's called now that, Busy Bee or whatever it's called, Property Bee,
That's it.
onto certain portals, as Explorer, yeah, sometimes you know. Then you can actually see historical prices as well on Rightmove and things like that. So certain websites will give you a little bit more information, but again, it depends what you're looking for. There is always the answer out there if you seek to find it.
Next one's about inheritance tax. In the next few years, it's likely I'm going to be inheriting my parents' house. Bit dark. Basically, how do I get around paying inheritance tax?
You just pay inheritance tax.
Yeah.
Get a good tax advisor, talk to them. This tax advisor can't answer that question.
It's very, very difficult to avoid. An offshore company where the shares get transferred, but then again the government has now started hitting offshore companies. And you've then, if you're not living there, you've got to worry about capital gains tax. It's very, very difficult to avoid inheritance tax.
And also, the second question to that is, when is inheritance tax actually paid?
When probate is applied for, you need to pay the fees up front on the basis of an estimate of probate's not my area, I just know this from law school days and from talking to people in the office. So it's paid up front when probate is applied for within a few weeks or months of the death. But then the actual figure is adjusted once the actual figures are known, maybe after 6 months or a year.
Well, there is such thing as gift, and parents can gift properties as anything to their children. If they survive 7 years, potentially kids don't pay tax. They look 14 years back. What gifts
I
were
think you have to be really
paid
careful
for.
because if they're still living in the
They can't
property,
live in the property.
they can't live in the
It has to
property.
be a proper gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing about it is that Cameron's talking about raising the limit to £1 million in a couple of years' time.
Well, you know, inheritance tax, capital gain tax is something that is constantly moving, and they change. It depends on the budget, so you can't really predict what will happen.
The exemption at the moment, I believe, is 300.
325.
Yeah.
325,000.
Yeah.
Okay, what is an acceptable percentage amount of the asking price? I've recently read that all London properties go for full asking price, and my estate agent is saying to make offers of 15% over.
Surprisingly, statistics were issued on Friday about this, which said that on average across London, property prices are going for, I think it was 97% of the asking price. I'd say do your homework first to make sure that it's sort of the value that you think it should be. Speak to a valuer or a surveyor. But there's no harm in putting an offer in 5% below and see what happens. You've got nothing to lose. All they can do is say no and try higher. But I mean, whatever offer you put in, chances are the estate agent will say no, try higher. So you could go below 5% below asking price.
At the moment, on mortgage side, we do see properties down value. So when you apply for a mortgage, if you have your mortgage offer accepted and so on, and then valuation comes back and it's lower. I've got it quite well. I wouldn't sort of, probably 30-40% of properties have got some sort of issue with valuation. Probably not 40-30%.
But what happens in a case like that?
In this case, you either renegotiate the price with the person, with the vendor, or you have to find a bigger deposit. So there is no, that's about it. Or if you had a deposit and you were applying for a mortgage, let's say 60%, now you have to apply for a mortgage of 70%. Yeah, and sometimes there are thresholds, so you've got 90% and 85s and 75s and 60. So if you cross them, you might have a much more expensive interest rate as a result. So it's, again, something to talk with an advisor if you are very close, and that is a project, just, manage expectation.
Go on here. After stamp duty and the actual cost of the property, how much will the other fees kind of equate to, and how long does it take to actually buy?
The other fees will include land registry fees, which effectively up to £500,000 will be £270. Above that, £540, and above £1 million, it's £910. These figures are readily available on many websites, but including the Revenue's website. There'll be search fees, which will be payable to the local authority for telling you about their plans of the area and how the property is affected by the council, such as road schemes, new railways, things like that, whether the property's got planning permission, what building regulations consent has been issued. Each local authority charges a different amount. You've got to best to budget for somewhere between 175 and 200 pounds for the local council's fees. There will be other search fees. Now, if you want an environmental search against a property to see whether it's in a floodplain, in any pollution in the area, what I would say is first look at the Environmental Agency website. They've got an area called What's in My Backyard. For free, they will tell you where the floodplains are, historic pollution in the area, and if you're happy with that, there's no need to buy an environmental search. There's drainage and water search, which will tell you, I think that's about £65, 64, £65, which will tell you whether the property is connected to mains drainage, surface water drainage and mains water. Also, it will tell you the water companies carry out analysis of the water at regular intervals, and it will tell you whether it's failed any of the tests for bacteria or whatever, and whether the property is recorded as being at risk of flooding due to overloaded sewers or low water pressure. Now, of the searches that you carry out, to a large extent it's up to you. Your solicitor, conveyancer, lawyer will be acting probably on behalf of the mortgage lender as well, and will say what searches he or she thinks are necessary. I take a different attitude. I think that every property is different, and there are some properties such as, say 50, 60-year-old properties where you probably don't need to do a drainage or water search. There are some properties where the onus is on the developer, new build properties, the onus is on the developer to tidy up any environmental spillage or pollution, where you may or may, you can decide whether or not you want the search. The only search I'd say is essential is the local search, which, as I said, costs about 175 to 200 pounds. But if anybody wants a quote for the cost, please do email me, and I'll happily let you have a breakdown.
I think a question which came in quite a few times is basically, how much can I actually borrow? Do you know what? Somebody sent me an email just, how much can I borrow? I hope it's about this, not just a random person. But
if we were doing this presentation somewhere in February, January, I would say whatever you earn, on average, you can borrow about 4 times of your gross annual income. Don't write it down, it's not the case anymore. These days, that's how much you earn, that's how much you spend, and lenders use calculators, and at the moment...
4 times net?
From gross, it used to be. From what we see, it's still more or less the same, but if someone who earns 30,000, and here is another someone who earns 30,000, and they will be able to borrow a very different amount of money due to how they spend, what their expenditure is. That's how it is at the moment. I really cannot tell you, I'm not making it up, that's how the industry is.
And please bear in mind that if you can borrow the money, you've also got to pay it back. And that's generally monthly instalments, and you've got to feed and clothe yourself. Don't try and get too much where you find that you're sort of rummaging around the restaurant dustbins.
I've got a question here about taking on lodgers. If I'm buying a house and taking on a lodger, should I include this in my application? Plus, how would I actually pay tax on this, on the revenue generated by lodgers?
Do you want to answer?
I'll leave it to you.
I'm not specialist.
You should declare it.
You can take a lodger. You wouldn't be taking a lodger on a purchase of the property. You will have a lodger a bit later. You can, lenders allow it, it's okay, and there is certain amount of money, just don't ask me how much, which you don't need to pay tax
It's
on,
about
and then,
4,500.
yeah,
It's 4,500.
for something.
So, yeah, so you can have up to £450
Yeah.
a month for free,
Yeah.
basically.
You can get some
Including
cash in.
bills.
Yeah.
Or just do cash in hand. Don't record that. Right. Okay. How long do you have to live in the UK before you can actually apply for a mortgage?
You have to live and work in the UK. Again, we expect lots of changes and we will see what will happen. But it depends what status you've got. Are you here on some sort of visas and it's one rule or one set of rules with different lenders? It depends what you do. Do you have a job here or not? But if you are employed and you work in this country, so at least you have to live here for 2 years. You have to have bank account, British bank account. You have to pay British tax in this country. On the piano, there were money MOT pieces of paper or whatever I call it, print-offs. That disagreement we had was meant for interesting listeners. I offer one-to-one meeting where I don't charge for that meeting, I don't sell you anything, I don't try to persuade you in anything. You just have got an opportunity to sit with financial advisor and go through everything you've got and have your questions answered. Previously, I used to say I love coffee, if you want to have that service. I am off coffee now officially. But
Starbucks is going to get a business now.
yeah, I know. Starbucks never was my favorite. Take it off. But I do support a charity. It's ESAT. They educate kids in Ethiopia. So if I am good and I add value to your life and I educate you and answer questions, I would really appreciate if you put some small amount of money into the charity. It's on link in my email and I'm badly failing. I raised nothing so far. So if you would like that service on open market, if you sit with financial advisor and you want comprehensive review, it will cost you 700 plus VAT plus, depends where advisor has an office. Our office is in NW1, Old Maryland Road, so we are pretty central. Just be, if you want that service, be very gentle with me because I'm really busy, but I promise I'll do it for you.
Okay, just a couple more, then we're going to open it up to everybody else. One here, buying at auction, yay or nay?
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well that's well done, yay for that.
If you're buying at auction, you need to do your homework beforehand. I have had various people come to me and say, I've just bought this property at auction, what do I need to do now? I generally tell them you need to turn back the hands of the clock and come and see me 2 weeks ago so I can check out the property, the title to the property. You've got to question why is the property being sold at auction. One, is it because the owner, say a bank, selling under a power of sale, or trustees selling the property, who are under a legal obligation to get the best price possible. Now, the law sort of recognises auctions as getting the best price possible, which I think is rather strange. But that's the English law for you. You're having people bidding against each other. Chances are there's nothing wrong with the property, it's just that the previous owner couldn't afford the mortgage and has done a runner. There's also other properties that can't be sold any other way that go through the auction process, and you don't know if the property you're interested in is one of those. It's a bit like Russian roulette. You could find yourself buying a property with horrendous structural problems or other defects. So get the homework done first before you go. Have the searches carried out, have the survey carried out. The auction houses will have an auction pack for you to read through, but it's probably better that your solicitor reads through this, particularly the local search, which is a bit of a technical document.
If you are going to raise a mortgage, then I would like to see you before you see David. Because you need to, well, probably see David and then see me at the same time. You need to have property value before you go to the auction. Otherwise, you will go to the lender and then they will do valuation and they don't accept the property. And here you go, you've lost your 10% or you have to find funds.
This is a big problem because a lot of the auction houses have recognised this. The traditional period between the auction and completion is 4 weeks. A lot of auction houses have now extended this to 5 or 6 weeks because there's far too many people bidding at the auction and they've not got their mortgage in place. And they'll need 3 to 5 weeks to sort that out.
Well, after you've actually seen David and Lena, then come and see me. Seriously, buying at an auction can be a little bit daunting, especially if you've never been there for the first time. There's a lot of activity going on, and you might have seen these Homes Under the Hammer programs on daytime TV. It's nothing like that, seriously. When you have an auction, you have people literally queued up to the back of the door, and they're down the aisles, they're everywhere, and it's a bidding frenzy. But try what these guys say. You've got to do your homework. Yeah? You first get the brochure, identify 2 or 3 properties out of that you want to go for, making sure that you've got your funds in place, and then obviously go and view the property. If you like 2 or 3 you want to go for, get a survey done. Even if you end up just buying one, that £300 you're going to spend per survey is money well spent because you don't buy dead duck. You really don't, because going into auction, you do buy as seen, and once that gavel falls, that's it. There is no going back. So just make sure you do all of your own homework and cross your fingers.
And at you don't have to go to the auction. There's nothing to stop you putting your offer in before the auction. A lot of sellers at auction will listen to the offers that they receive before, and if you go to the auction and if you're told that it's been withdrawn, it means it's been sold to somebody else previously. So don't wait, don't hesitate, put the offer in before the auction, you don't lose anything.
Cool, last one before we open it up. For people who don't want to buy in London, what are some good UK hotspots and also around the world?
After your golden triangle, David.
I won't tell you. There are some good hotspots around the UK, I mean outside of London. Okay, if we bring it back just to London for the moment. London, as I said, from Zone 3 out is probably affordable and there's some good investments there you can still probably get that are reasonable price. But if you want to get anything over 6-7% yield, invest outside of London. Okay. I'm going to draw a line between Nottingham to Stoke to Manchester. There's a triangle for you. It's quite a large triangle, but there's some good properties around there. And depending on what you want to get out of them, you can, even if you want to just flip properties, just buy and sell, do them up and sell them, or whether you want to buy and hold and get a return from them, prices still stack up in those sort of areas. There are some other little hotspots around the UK, but if you want to really start to look at that area, because that's where a lot of my money's going.
How about around the world? Any?
Miami, I like that if anybody's buying. So, and seriously, if Florida, in places in America, yes, they are cheap out there at the moment. They've been for some time. If you're looking at it for a very low return investment at the moment, because it is going to grow, that is a good area. But yeah, probably America, I would say.
Well, somebody did ask whether they should actually invest in Greece. No. It's one of these things.
Long term, you can. Long term. But if you're looking to get a short return on it, then I would say no. I'd much prefer to put my money a bit more closer to home, get double figure on the yields and return on investment. issue and not know that I don't know what's going to happen with Greece. You know, it's still up in the air a little bit what's going on with Greece. So my response is no. I would not. Just
bear in mind what David is thinking is if there is a golden triangle, you're not going to be told about it until it's too late.
Yeah, don't tell anybody what I just told
It's on public domain.
Membership website. All right. Okay, cool. We're going to open up. Does anybody have any questions? Question there, sir.
What about shared ownership? What do you think about this?
Shared ownership, I believe it's a good scheme for the right people. There is nothing wrong with it. You buy a share of the property as much as you can afford. Some housing association insists the minimum and the maximum you can buy. But you can buy a decent property for the amount of money you've got. So if you go on open market, you probably wouldn't be able to afford a flat of that size. But it will be affordable in shared ownership. Again, you calculate that you can afford it, but basically you own a part of the property and you rent the other part. And when it comes to sale, whatever amount of equity you've got is divided based on shares you've got.
Is there any downside, for example, if maybe it's more difficult to sell after? Or
There is a market for it, a very big market, because many first-time buyers cannot afford property on the open market. So some people don't like it. I've got lots of clients who buy it in London and they sell it later.
A lot of shared ownership properties have a provision in there that says that if you want to sell, you've got to first offer to sell it back to the housing association for the market value.
And many of these properties you actually can staircase, so you can buy more and more and more shares. Some say that you can't buy more than 90% or 70%, but you can go to the 100%.
Yeah.
It's good to get on the market, but it's a limited market. As I said, you've got to sell it back to the local authority.
There are rules around it, you can't rent it out, so it's more strict. You can't move walls, but if you are a first-time buyer, do really look to extend the property with something. You want a place for them.
We are going to skip on. It's just because we've got a lot to take, but the speakers will be around later. Okay, sir.
If you have an existing property and you want to get a buy-to-let, is it better to remortgage the existing property that you're living in or to get a separate mortgage for the buy-to-let?
It depends on your circumstances. From a financial point of view, I prefer you to keep risk on business rather than on family property. So I would like you to have a mortgage on buy-to-let rather than on residential. For tax purposes, it's better because you will have to pay tax from rental income. If you don't have a mortgage on buy-to-let, then you're paying tax. But it's based on your circumstances.
Next question, sir.
Just two quick things. How do you go about finding tenants when you're getting properties outside of London? And second, do you use any management agencies to take care of it while you're based down here?
Okay. First thing, how do I go about finding tenants? Normally through websites like Spare Room or Gumtree, and if it's going to be a local, there are local companies. Because obviously I normally go into an area because I know there's a demand there. So I would actually go to those companies as well and try and leverage the extent, speak to local HR, there, most notice on even notice boards. You're only looking to normally sometimes fill, if it's a HMO for example, it helps my qualification, 4 rooms. That's who you're looking for, is 4 people. So that's how I find them. And the second point was?
Do you use management agencies to take care of problems?
Yes, I do. When it gets to probably over 5 properties in that area, any less than that, you can manage it yourself relatively quite well. Normally, when you buy a property, I tend to do it up from top to bottom. So then, nothing's tending, hopefully, to go wrong with that within the first 12 to 18 months. So I'm not going to go to replace boilers or things like that, or major things. It might be minor little things, which I can then obviously sort remotely.
Okay, over the side. Front.
You know, with how you can get a free credit rating.
Yes.
And you can kind of sign on and,
Yeah.
and get it free for a month
Yeah.
or something. And Do the mortgage companies look at that? Like, should you print it off
No,
and bring it with you?
they don't look into it, but advisor, I would like to see what they will see. Because sometimes you might forget about something, or I had cases where we had mobile phone default on payment and it wasn't ours. We had ID fraud, we had everything. So I would like to see what they will see.
And so you'd like to see like the 21-page document versus the 2 or 3-page
Yeah,
document?
yeah, the whole history, and you will be surprised if you've never seen your credit report. Please check. It's night reading, best night story. You will be like, really? All of that is mine. Be aware that lenders have got access to different databases. So whatever is on your credit report, if it is not, that CCJ is not shown on my report, they can see it. There are loads of different databases linked together.
Okay, guys, we're just going to take a couple more, and then we're going to actually finish at 8:30, but we are going to be here till 9 for any other questions you do have. Just I know that a lot of people do need to go away for the tube. So let's say one right at the back there. You're going to have to shout.
Yeah, I want to ask you, if you buy the property and it's not actually what you expected, how much is to resell it? You know what I mean?
Well, you want to sell it on again, so if
Yeah,
it doesn't meet your expectation.
Yeah, it's like,
Well, you can self-sell. You know, put your own notice board up if you want to, or you can go through an agent and pay them 3 or 4% of
but
the rent.
the fees are the same, like, because-
Selling fees.
Yeah, like.
Oh no, when you buy the property you have to pay stamp duty land tax, which is a sliding scale depending on the value of the property. When you sell the property you have to pay estate agent's commission as a rough rule of thumb, and that's 1 to 2%. But be wary, banks don't like properties that have not been owned for longer than 6 months. And you can find, if you want to sell it immediately, you're going to have the purchaser is going to have a potential difficulty in getting a mortgage on it.
Okay, one last question. Let's go right there.
What about new builds, holding their value, and also the whole process of buying off plan and where you're just herded in there like sheep, and you go and see the walls are there.
New builds are difficult. If you buy them off plan, you're trusting them to build it as per the artist's impression. And I think a lot of people, well, most of you have probably seen artists' impressions of various things. Holidays, does it always stack up? You don't know. Also with new builds, now they sell new builds at a premium. So they're very much like cars. As soon as you put it on the road, it drops in value. And it takes a little time to catch up to the purchase price.
I'll tell you the story, and I don't want to frighten you, but I can run an event from morning till evening telling stories from my experience. Client of mine, we are buying a property which is new build. We are applying for agreement in principle and putting application in place. What stage the property is at? Well, it's in a building sort of process. The valuer goes there is nothing. They stopped. They were building, and stopped where these 4 houses, townhouses, should have started. That was in October last year. I pulled everything I possibly could and extended that valuation time for the next 3 months, so my client will pay just a fraction of valuation and we will not need to rebook the mortgage product, pay another £150, whatever. We were promised that a house will be completed in February. We are in April, nothing done. People who had mortgage offer, and my client was pulling his hair, Lena, everyone has mortgage offer and I'm the only one. I said, well, I can't do it. I just cannot do it. In your circumstances, that's the only land I've got. But all people who had mortgage offers, there are no houses. They can't complete. They've lost mortgage offers. Now, they put 10% down. My client hasn't because we had no mortgage offer. Now, because of changes in mortgage market, they will have to reapply. And there is no guarantee they will get mortgage.
My opinion on that is that, no, I would never invest in new build, because I'm the sort of person that I only would invest in something that I can buy and see and touch. you never know how long, in a sense, how long it's going to take to get to the point by where you can move in. If it's already been built and it's a new build, maybe, but not planned. Taking real risk, you know. And sometimes things don't live up to expectation anyway. So, yeah, I'm afraid that some will, some won't, so what next? You look at a property, if it's right for you, go for it. If not, move on, get the next one. You know? But they put the Australians so beautiful and so sweet and everything else, but you know, it's never like that in reality when you come moving on a moving day, if you ever do. So I wouldn't invest in it.
Okay, guys, we are going to have to draw it to the end. I just wanted, David, first of all, before you go, just going to go through all three speakers, little final word of wisdom, Jerry Springer or whatever. But what's like, and how can people keep in contact with you as well?
You can keep in contact with me via my website, which is easypropertysolutions.co.uk. And if you put David Act before that, you can come straight with me on an email. My cards are over there. And I am also opening up to all of you to have a free coaching call with me. Just put your details down. Either I or myself will contact you, and we can look at how we can help you if you want us to do so. It's no obligation, it's free.
And David Tillier.
I want you, if you are looking to buy a property this year, 2014, I really begging you, get prepared, otherwise you will might be disappointed. So get prepared for that before you even go around and look for properties. How you can keep in touch with me, again, my business cards are on the piano. If you picked one of the leaflets and you would like to have your money MOT, or in other words, in our jargon, it's full comprehensive financial review, which is on mortgage market for lots of money. I might change my mind and get back to courses. Might happen. But if you help me to raise money for the charity, it's what keeps me out of bed every morning. And trust me, I will do whatever I can to help you.
David Coleman.
Bear in mind, no property is perfect. You can put your list of requirements down on a sheet, go for the majority, you'll never find one with all of your requirements. Be prepared to make mistakes, try and keep them to a minimum by having professional advice. From any one of us here, our cards are on there, please do email or telephone if you feel that we can help.
David Coleman.